While you're hiding from the world, someone else is building relationships, gathering information, creating opportunities, and taking the power that could have been yours. The world does not reward the invisible. And today, you'll discover why isolation is one of the most dangerous traps in the game of power. Welcome to Career Canvas Power, where transformation becomes your identity. Here, we turn knowledge into real power for your life. Human beings have a natural desire for safety. Whenever people experience betrayal, criticism, failure, competition, or emotional pain, their first instinct is often to retreat from the world. They begin avoiding people, limiting conversations, and building invisible walls around themselves. At first, this feels like wisdom. It feels like protection. After all, if people cannot reach you, they cannot hurt you. But throughout history, many powerful individuals have discovered a dangerous truth: the walls that keep danger out often keep opportunity out as well. The world is constantly changing. New alliances are being formed, new opportunities are appearing, and new threats are emerging every day. Those who disconnect from this flow gradually lose their ability to understand what is happening around them. Law 18 teaches that complete isolation is not a source of strength, but a hidden source of weakness. Power does not exist in a vacuum. It exists in a world filled with people, relationships, competition, and influence. The person who cuts themselves off from society may gain temporary peace, but they often lose awareness, relevance, and influence. The goal is not to hide from the world, but to learn how to move through it intelligently. In the game of power, safety comes not from separation but from awareness, adaptability, and connection. The individual who remains engaged with reality gains advantages that no fortress can ever provide. The official judgment of Law 18 contains a warning that many people ignore. The world can indeed be dangerous. Rivals exist. Competitors exist. Betrayal is possible. Because of these realities, people are often tempted to seek protection through isolation. A fortress appears safe because it creates distance between you and potential threats. However, what appears safe on the surface often creates greater dangers beneath it. The isolated person loses contact with the flow of events. They become less aware of changes occurring around them and more dependent on limited sources of knowledge. At the same time, isolation makes a person easier to predict because they no longer interact with a wide variety of people and situations. Human beings gain strength through engagement with the environment, not separation from it. The crowd, the network, and the community provide protection in ways that walls never can. Among people, information travels. Among people, opportunities emerge. Among people, alliances form. The fortress protects against a few visible threats while exposing a person to many invisible ones. This is why truly powerful individuals rarely disappear from the world. Instead, they learn how to operate within it while maintaining awareness and influence. The central lesson is clear: isolation may feel secure, but in the long run it often creates greater vulnerability than the dangers it was meant to prevent. At its deepest level, Law 18 is about understanding where power actually comes from. Many people assume power is created through independence and self-sufficiency alone. While independence is valuable, no individual operates entirely outside the influence of others. Every organization, government, business, movement, and institution functions through human interaction. Decisions are shaped by relationships. Opportunities emerge through connections. Influence spreads through networks. This means that anyone seeking power must remain connected to the environment in which power operates. The mistake many people make is confusing caution with withdrawal. They believe that avoiding people will reduce risk. In reality, it often reduces awareness. A person who withdraws from society may become comfortable, but comfort can create blindness. Without regular interaction, it becomes harder to understand what people are thinking, what trends are emerging, and what changes are taking place. The world rewards those who can read situations accurately and adapt quickly. This requires exposure to different people, perspectives, and experiences. Furthermore, power is not only about possessing knowledge, it is about understanding human nature. The more isolated a person becomes, the fewer opportunities they have to observe, learn from, and understand others. Over time, this weakens judgment and reduces strategic awareness. Successful leaders throughout history understood this principle. They remained connected to advisors, allies, supporters, and sources of information because they knew that influence depends on staying informed about reality. Law 18 does not argue against privacy, reflection, or caution. Instead, it warns against allowing fear to push you into permanent withdrawal from the world. The person who remains engaged, observant, and connected develops a far clearer understanding of reality than the person who chooses isolation. And in every field of life, the ability to see reality clearly is one of the greatest forms of power. The core principle behind Law 18 is not simply that isolation is dangerous. The deeper principle is that awareness is the foundation of power, and awareness can only be developed through contact with reality. Every day, countless events unfold around us. Markets change, relationships evolve, opportunities appear, and threats develop. Most of these changes are small at first, but they eventually grow into major developments. The people who notice these shifts early gain an enormous advantage. The people who notice them late are forced to react under pressure. This is where isolation becomes dangerous. When a person withdraws from the world, their view of reality becomes narrower. They see less, hear less, and understand less about what is happening beyond their immediate environment. Meanwhile, individuals who remain connected are constantly gathering signals from the world around them. They observe changing attitudes, emerging trends, new opportunities, and potential risks. They are able to adapt before circumstances force them to adapt. This is one of the hidden advantages of connection. It is not merely about having friends or social contacts, it is about maintaining awareness of the environment in which you operate. In every field of life, the person with greater awareness usually makes better decisions. Power belongs to those who understand reality as it is, not as they imagine it to be. The more connected you are to the flow of events, the more accurately you can see the world, and the more effectively you can act within it. Law 18 is also a lesson in human psychology. Human beings do not think in perfect isolation. Our understanding of reality is constantly shaped by interaction, feedback, observation, and experience. When these influences disappear, the mind can begin creating distorted versions of reality. One common effect of isolation is increased fear. Without regular exposure to people and situations, uncertainties often appear larger than they really are. Small concerns can grow into major anxieties because there is no external perspective to challenge them. At the same time, isolation can create overconfidence. A person who rarely receives feedback may begin believing that their opinions and assumptions are always correct. Since nobody is questioning their thinking, they gradually lose the habit of questioning themselves. This creates a dangerous combination of certainty and ignorance. Throughout history, many leaders, executives, and decision-makers have made serious mistakes because they became separated from honest feedback and alternative viewpoints. They stopped listening, stopped observing, and eventually stopped understanding reality. Another psychological danger is emotional detachment. The isolated individual may become less capable of understanding the motivations, concerns, and perspectives of others. As a result, their decisions become less effective because they no longer understand the people they are trying to influence. The mind functions best when it remains connected to reality through meaningful interaction. Isolation does not merely separate a person from society, it can gradually separate them from an accurate understanding of the world itself. One of the most practical lessons of Law 18 is that information is rarely discovered alone. In most cases, valuable knowledge travels through networks of people. News spreads through conversations. Opportunities appear through introductions. Insights emerge through discussion. Warnings often arrive through relationships long before they become visible to the general public. This is why powerful individuals place such importance on maintaining connections. They understand that access to information often determines the quality of decisions. The person who receives important knowledge early has time to prepare, adjust, and act. The person who receives it late is forced to respond after the advantage has already disappeared. In business, this might mean identifying a new trend before competitors. In leadership, it might mean recognizing a problem before it becomes a crisis. In personal life, it might mean seeing opportunities that others overlook. Information creates options, and options create power. The isolated person often assumes that what they know is sufficient, but reality is far larger than any single individual's perspective. No matter how intelligent someone may be, they cannot observe everything on their own. This is why successful people develop multiple sources of information rather than relying on a single viewpoint. They listen, observe, ask questions, and remain engaged with the world around them. The ruthless truth is that opportunities often arrive disguised as conversations, relationships, and connections. Those who remain connected encounter them early. Those who isolate themselves often discover them only after the moment has passed. In a constantly changing world, timely information is not merely useful, it is a strategic advantage that can shape success, influence, and power. One of the most important aspects of Law 18 is understanding what the law does not mean. It does not mean trusting everyone. It does not mean sharing your secrets with every person you meet. It does not mean becoming dependent on the approval, support, or guidance of others. In fact, such behavior creates a different kind of weakness. The hidden strategy behind this law is selective connection. Powerful people remain connected to the world while maintaining control over their own judgment. They build relationships, but they do not surrender their independence. They listen carefully, but they do not blindly follow. They gather information from many sources, but they make decisions for themselves. This balance is what separates intelligent engagement from careless openness. Many people make the mistake of choosing between two extremes, complete isolation or complete dependence. Both are dangerous. The isolated person lacks awareness, while the dependent person loses autonomy. True power lies in the middle. Stay connected enough to understand what is happening around you, but independent enough to think clearly and act strategically. The goal is not to be controlled by the crowd. The goal is to learn from the crowd while remaining master of your own mind. In a world filled with uncertainty, the strongest position is neither isolation nor dependence. It is informed independence supported by meaningful connections. History repeatedly demonstrates what happens when powerful individuals allow fear to drive them into isolation. One of the most famous examples is Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. After unifying China and achieving extraordinary power, he became increasingly concerned about threats, conspiracies, and assassination attempts. As his fear grew, he began limiting access to himself and distancing himself from normal interaction. Fewer people could speak to him directly. Fewer advisors could provide honest feedback. Gradually, a barrier formed between the ruler and the reality of his empire. While this may have seemed like a protective measure, it produced unintended consequences. Information reaching him became more filtered and less reliable. Individuals closest to him gained greater control over what he saw and heard. Corruption and manipulation became easier because fewer voices could challenge false narratives. Over time, the emperor's understanding of events became increasingly dependent on a small circle of intermediaries. This illustrates one of the greatest dangers of isolation: it reduces the quality of information available to decision-makers. A leader who cannot accurately see reality, cannot accurately respond to it. The lesson extends far beyond emperors and governments. In business, leadership, and personal life, people who isolate themselves often become trapped inside a limited version of reality. Fear convinces them they are becoming safer, while in truth they are becoming less informed. Law 18 teaches that power requires contact with reality, and reality is most clearly understood through continued engagement with people and events. If Qin Shi Huang illustrates the dangers of isolation, Julius Caesar demonstrates the advantages of remaining connected. Caesar understood that influence does not grow in separation from society. It grows through understanding people, maintaining relationships, and staying informed about changing circumstances. Throughout his rise in Roman politics and military leadership, he built connections across different groups and institutions. He cultivated relationships with political allies, military officers, influential citizens, and key supporters. These connections provided more than friendship, they provided insight. Through his network, Caesar gained access to information, perspectives, and opportunities that would have been impossible to obtain alone. He understood the concerns of different groups, recognized shifts in public opinion, and identified opportunities before many of his rivals. This gave him a strategic advantage because he was rarely operating in ignorance. His network allowed him to see more of the political landscape than those who relied on narrow circles of information. Just as importantly, relationships expanded his influence. Every alliance increased his reach. Every supporter strengthened his position. Every connection created new possibilities for county operation and advancement. Caesar's success cannot be explained by networking alone, but his ability to build and maintain relationships was undoubtedly one of his greatest strengths. His example highlights a central truth of Law 18: strong networks create strong power. The individual who remains connected gains access to knowledge, opportunities, support, and influence that isolated individuals can rarely match. In the long run, relationships are not merely social assets, they are strategic assets that help transform awareness into power and opportunity into achievement. To fully understand Law 18, you must look beyond the surface and identify the principles that make the law work. The first lesson is that vulnerability often comes from ignorance rather than direct attack. Many people spend their lives protecting themselves from visible threats, while ignoring the hidden danger of becoming disconnected from reality. The second lesson is that awareness creates advantage. The more accurately you understand your environment, the more effectively you can respond to challenges and opportunities. Another important lesson is that influence rarely develops in isolation. Influence grows when people know who you are, trust your abilities, and recognize your value. This requires interaction with others. The law also teaches that strength can be multiplied through alliances. A single individual has limited reach, but relationships expand access to knowledge, resources, and opportunities. Furthermore, fear is often the force that pushes people toward isolation. When fear becomes the basis of decision-making, people start avoiding situations that could actually help them grow. Finally, the law reveals a fundamental truth about power itself: power is dynamic, not static. It moves through communication, relationships, cooperation, and awareness. Those who understand this remain engaged with the world. Those who do not often find themselves becoming weaker without realizing it. The deepest lesson is simple but profound: the ability to stay connected to reality is one of the greatest sources of long-term power. Although Law 18 warns against isolation, it should never be interpreted as an invitation to trust everyone or become endlessly social. Every law of power can become dangerous when taken to an extreme, and this law is no exception. Some people hear the importance of connection and assume they should make themselves available to everyone. This approach creates new risks. Not every relationship is beneficial. Not every alliance is wise. Some people consume time, energy, and attention, while offering little value in return. Others may exploit trust, spread misinformation, or create unnecessary problems. Excessive openness can expose weaknesses that would be better kept private. Likewise, a person who becomes involved with too many groups may lose focus on their primary goals. The purpose of connection is not constant social activity, it is strategic awareness and meaningful engagement. Powerful individuals are selective about who they trust, who they work with, and who they allow into their inner circle. They understand that quality matters more than quantity. The solution is balance. Remain connected to the world, but protect your judgment. Build relationships, but maintain boundaries. Listen to others, but think independently. The goal is neither isolation nor excessive openness. The goal is intelligent connection guided by wisdom, discipline, and self-control. Like many laws of power, Law 18 contains an important exception. There are situations in which temporary withdrawal can be beneficial. Strategic thinking often requires periods of solitude. Great decisions are rarely made in constant noise and distraction. Sometimes it is necessary to step away from external pressures in order to reflect, evaluate options, and gain clarity. Temporary withdrawal can also prevent emotional reactions. When people are angry, frustrated, or overwhelmed, distance can provide the space needed to think rationally. In addition, periods of solitude can help restore energy, improve focus, and strengthen self-discipline. However, these benefits only exist when withdrawal remains temporary and purposeful. The danger begins when temporary retreat becomes permanent isolation. Reflection turns into avoidance. Privacy turns into disconnection. Solitude turns into separation from reality. This is the point where the law reasserts itself. A short withdrawal can sharpen perception, but long-term isolation gradually dulls it. The master of power understands the difference. They know when to step back and when to re-engage. They use solitude as a tool rather than a lifestyle. The highest level of mastery is the ability to maintain independence without becoming isolated, to think alone without living alone, and to preserve personal clarity while remaining connected to the realities of the world around them. The value of Law 18 becomes clear when it is applied to everyday situations. In professional life, build relationships with people from different backgrounds, industries, and levels of experience. Diverse connections provide broader perspectives and expose you to opportunities that might otherwise remain invisible. In business, stay close to customers, colleagues, and market trends, rather than assuming you already know everything you need to know. In leadership, maintain open channels of communication so that accurate information can reach you. In personal life, avoid withdrawing completely after disappointment, failure, or betrayal. Difficult experiences often tempt people to isolate themselves, but growth usually requires re-engagement rather than retreat. Make a habit of seeking different viewpoints instead of relying solely on your own assumptions. Stay informed about developments that affect your goals and ambitions. At the same time, protect your privacy and maintain healthy boundaries. Being connected does not require sharing every detail of your life. It requires remaining engaged with reality. The practical application of this law is simple: stay aware, stay involved, keep learning, and continue building meaningful relationships. Over time, these habits create a strong foundation of knowledge, adaptability, and influence that can support success in any field. Law 18 teaches a lesson that remains relevant in every era. Isolation often creates the very weaknesses it is intended to prevent. People withdraw from the world because they seek safety, certainty, and control. Yet complete withdrawal usually reduces awareness, limits perspective, and weakens the ability to respond to changing circumstances. Power is not created by hiding from reality. It is created by understanding reality better than others do. This understanding comes through observation, experience, relationships, and continued engagement with the world. The strongest individuals are not those who build the highest walls around themselves. They are those who remain connected while maintaining independence, who learn from others without becoming dependent on them, and who stay informed without losing their ability to think critically. Throughout history, those who isolated themselves often became disconnected from the truth, while those who maintained strong networks gained access to knowledge, support, and opportunity. The ultimate message of Law 18 is not that you should trust everyone or constantly seek attention. Rather, it is that awareness is one of the greatest forms of protection, and awareness requires connection. A fortress may protect you from a few immediate threats, but strong relationships, reliable information, and an accurate understanding of reality provide a far stronger defense. In the end, lasting power belongs to those who remain engaged with the world, while never allowing the world to control them. Remember, real power comes from understanding and applying. Stay connected with Career Canvas Power, your transformation continues.